G'day everyone, I apologise if it's a bit loud, just move away a bit. Welcome to another live stream. Tonight I'll be running some steam on the Victorian Goldfields Railway. This is a very much work in progress route by a couple of fellow trains creators. I've created a little bit of a lineup here of locos that are similar or may in future run on VGR. Tonight we'll be running from Malden to Muckleford using ZecRail's fictional Maroon D1 class. So first thing I'm going to do is turn off our marker lights. We don't need them today. And I really should be keeping an eye on our water and broiler pressure here. I think we're ready to shunt out. So just make sure all our points are set. There we go. Unfortunately, the fire effects in the tanks don't quite work, so you do see the funny fire effect there. There you go. One thing I do know about this line is it's mostly downgrade to Muckleford. So the first thing I'll be doing is actually turning our loco round. That's our handbrake. So I now need to back onto the turntable. Just cycle through the viewpoints till we're looking out towards the back. Let's see if I can bring it to a stop with the air brake. Oh, and I'm a bit short. How's that? Let me know if you still can't hear me. I can tweak things a little bit here. Wow, it's really hard to line this up from the cab. I'm not used to it. Well, that was weird. I have no idea what happened then. But we're definitely in the dirt. Thankfully, we do have a trick we can use here. And that's to simply put another copy of the loco down. I have no idea why that happened, but I think I'll just safely delete it. I will say this, it is very handy having the trains tab in the in driver. But now that we're facing the right way, jump back into the cab and prep our train. I don't think it's so much that it's too big for the turntable. It is it's a 50-ish foot wheelbase. They're meant to fit it on a 50-footer, and that's a 53, but it might just be my frame rate's not playing nice with turntables. And wow, that safety valve's loud. I have no idea when the creators of this route will have it finished. It's still a very much work in progress, so it could be a few years away still. I'd say that's quite likely because it takes a long time to build a route. For anyone interested, the Healesville route that's included in Tame took about 5.5 years to build. That explains that one. I had the blower on still. I can tell you straight up now that most of the rolling stock and locos on here are not things that you'd see at the VGR at the moment, but some of them are. I mean, L-wagons, T-van, I've got some W cars in the consist, but for the most part I've just put in what I thought would look good on a train running on the line. Most of it's screw link coupled because that's simply what I've got installed in Tane for my steam loco stuff at the moment. So whilst we back out of the yard, I'll give us a rundown on the consist. Apart from our D1 class loco, which I'll quickly set up for tender first running, the D1s are set up with viewpoints for tender first running, so if I turn around we can now see that there's no white disc on the tender. So apart from the D1 we have a screw-link coupled C-van, a pair of BV cars, a BW, an ABW, an ABL or two in two different versions of the livery, and a ZD van, which unfortunately at the moment has the tail lights turn on irrespective of time of day, but I have some plans for that in future. The Maroon D1s are available from the ZecRail website, but I'll give you a quick rundown on these. They have a range of scripted smoke effects, including the air compressor chuff, snifter valves, cylinder drains that adjust based on steam chest pressure, variable smoke effects from the funnel, and several others that are the same as our previous locos. This might be a struggle to bring it to a stop. So if I jump back in, by changing to the rearwards facing cab, it resets some of the controls like the windows and that, so I have to reopen them if you want to sit with your head out the window. And unfortunately the tender is essentially a locomotive, so when running tender first you don't get a smoke effect from the funnel. I am hoping to work something out for that, but it's set up this way so that the headlight on the tender can work like so. So just set our road back into the platform. And I think we might have stalled on the hill. This is not unrealistic for a steam loco. You can stall with the if you get in the wrong spot on the stroke. And now we're slipping. I've just had a comment that it might be a heavy load for a D1. I'm not sure what our weight is. 212 tonne. So yeah, that's a pretty decent load to get started. Between the D1s and the D3s, there are, if you know what you're looking for. The most obvious one will be the smokebox front. It will have the more modern style smokebox front with the raised door. This has the flush door that's very common on earlier steam locos of the VR. Apart from that, pretty much everything is taller and bigger, so they had a bigger boiler, which resulted in a funnel that sat a little bit higher, a higher dome, a bigger dome, and the cab sat higher. They also had a longer smoke box than the D1s, and various other differences that can be seen when compared, but in general they're very similar. Apparently I'm going to have to be pretty on the ball. I've just been told that 205 tonne was about the maximum on the line in the VR days. Thankfully these are a pretty free steaming model. I don't know, because there's none that still survives, so I can't experience a D1 in person. It's a bit hard to know exactly how well they perform, but I am going, because it doesn't appear to be a passenger interactive station at the moment. I will use a driver command. Instant load, which will simply allow me to load the train with passengers in the platform. One thing I do have to be careful of is the rearwards cars are the ones without corridors. So in reality I've probably overrun a bit. So I'll just back the train up. As long as I get one or two of the doors of this carriage in, I should be fine. That looks good. Now we just go get the loco ready for the trip to Muckleford, which, as I said, is mostly downhill, so that shouldn't be too bad. There are quite a few little animated bits and pieces in here, but all of the main controls are the ones you want to use. So things like your injector, the blowers over in the middle here, your right hand side injector, the gauge glasses work. At this stage the blow through, water passage and all that don't work, but I am looking into making them functional on future models. In reality I should have the loco in mid-gear when sitting. I've been warned that it's a tricky process keeping the train to the speed limit going down the grade, so I'm going to have to concentrate a bit on that, otherwise I might slip over. This is how you use the instant load command. It will reset some of our controls. I'll just release the train brake and apply the handbrake now. And we should see passengers in our carriages. And it's a pretty busy day. We even have some passengers and some parcels in the guards van. Interesting. That command won't load tenders and locos as far as I know. Nope. They're quite a bit down from full. And apparently the track conditions less than ideal, so we might get a bit of sway. Thanks, Matt. So I'll give it till 10:25 for us to depart. One of the little features I've got, even though this loco has a speed recorder, it is very, very difficult to read. So just under the whistle here is a digital speed readout. And that just makes it easier to read your speed from the cab view. Otherwise you can use the HUD. And there's also a view dedicated to the speed recorder. In case you do want to drive off it, so you can toggle back and forth. This is our sander here, I think we can turn that off now. And away we go. No, that doesn't work when running tender first. I didn't know that. Cylinder drains should be open. They are toggled open and closed using the Alt-D key combination. Unfortunately they only work in cab mode, but they are available. These locos also come with a second whistle on them, which is activated using the bell function. So it will play in a loop, so you will need to turn it off after you activate it. Starting to drop down grade now. May see a reduction frame rate down this hill here, simply due to the number of trees, but and that was a bit much on the brakes. I must say a big thank you to Steve Lero from K&L Trains for assisting with some of the, well, with all of my recent whistle sounds. The recordings are from a variety of places, and Steve has very nicely edited them for me, producing some amazing sounding whistle sounds. I'm not quite sure about the speed limits along here. I know that the maximum is 25. I'm just going to hazard a guess that the speed's not resetting up the curve, so hopefully we're allowed 25 along this section. If I'm not, I apologise. Spotted the carriage over there. So I did. So I just had it confirmed that I should be sticking to around 15 mile an hour around here, so my mistake. was a bit more of a grade than I expected, but that just means I've got to work the loco a little harder. Certainly noticing that it's quite a gradient, so this should be an interesting run back. On top of the boiler pressure will be interesting. Hopefully later this year or early next year I might be able to have a cane game to run along here. Certainly look forward to having that. That'll follow along from the currently work in progress B class. Why, yes, I did say, okay. Boy, come down speed. So, at this stage, after the V class is finished, at least the first couple of packs of them, I haven't quite confirmed how they'll be released. I'll be starting on a K class. First version will be the original style Ks, so K100 to 109, and then as renumbered to as 140 to 149. And potentially a pack with modified front end, and then I'll look at doing versions as later built, so 150 to I think it's 183 with the ones with 2 windows and spoke wheels originally, and so on through all the different versions. And for those with an interest in modern ops. I do plan on doing the preserved versions fairly early, hopefully. Especially the ones that fit the Series 2, as I'd call them, so 150 through to 183. So you've got K153, K160, K163, the main ones there. And then later on the box POC and single window versions will follow, which will give us K190 and so on. The speed is certainly getting away from me tonight. Whoa, that's rough. You did warn me, Matt. You did warn me. Okay. Because of the way the rat's set up, I don't think that signal's going to change, but it might. Oh, there it goes. I think that point's set for the platform, yeah. This is Muckleford Station. This is where I'll be terminating today, mostly because the rat doesn't go much further at the moment. It is a work in progress. I look forward to seeing their work in future as they extend it. Now, I just need to make sure I bring the rear of our train in. Considering we do have non-corridor stock in the consist. Okay, so welcome to Muckleford. Basically the middle of nowhere, even in real life. So we'll run around our train here. This is how VGR once operated. They used to only go as far as Muckleford, and I think it was about 2004 they extended. Might have been a little earlier. I do remember as about a 6-year-old being up in the cab of J549 on a trip from Muckleford back to Malden. Well, I think the Muckleford Fire Brigade shed is actually pretty much spot on. Well, now that we're driving from the front again, we'll cycle back through the viewpoints to drive from the front, which means that pretty much everything should be working as you'd want it. Most of the time I'd expect these locos to be driven funnel first, so most of those little bugs, which are trains bugs as far as I can tell, shouldn't be too much of a problem. And as you can tell, I like driving with the front door open. I think it's a nice, unique little feature of these locos on the VR. Only a handful of locos had front doors on the driver's side. So that was the D1, D2, and some of the D3s, and the A2s and the Vs, as far as possibly also the Cs. Whoa. Just had a little bit of fun with the reverse not doing what I wanted, and then the handbrake not doing what I wanted, but we got there. Let's try not to ram these carriages. Handbrake on. And back into mid gear for a few minutes. Normally it would be a little while sitting here before we head back, but well, in this case we'll make it a fairly short wait. I'll give it a minute, if that. One of the challenges, of course, is actually keeping your fire under control. Unfortunately, we don't have functional dampers, but again, maybe one day we'll have them. But instead, just sort of keep the blower off unless needed, and put the fire on before you need it. So I'll get us back towards 100%. With the coal level in trains, you're basically 100% coal level is optimum. It doesn't mean you've filled the firebox up to absolutely full. It means you've essentially covered the fire bed evenly, and you have the optimum fire for maximum heat. You are seeing me drive this line for the first time, so I'm not overly familiar with it yet. There is a sweet spot for the handbrake where it won't cause the air compressor to go off, because trains doesn't technically support a handbrake. So what I've done is I've actually set the handbrake up as the independent brake, which unfortunately lowers your main reservoir pressure, at least in trains, and causes the air compressor to run. But we are on the level here, so hopefully it won't drive away on us. Let's see if it'll settle down. Oh, there we go. Now she's sitting nicely. One of the little features of the D1 class locos I've made, if you can see into the frames there, put the loco into forward gear, put the handbrake fully back on. You can see that the valve gear moves into forward, and as does the reach rod for the reverser. If I put it back into neutral, or close to, or mid-gear, you can see that it's moved back to mid-gear between the frames. And then into reverse, it'll move up into reverse. There is a bit of lag between the reverser linkage and the valve gear itself, because they're separate parts. But under normal running you shouldn't see that. So I'll get us ready to depart. We'll involve warming up our fire a little. And basically once the boiler pressure starts to rise again, we'll know we've warmed the fire back up. One thing of interest is that back in the operating days of these locos, the boiler pressure gauge didn't have a red line for maximum pressure. That was expected that the fireman would know what the maximum pressure was. It was on the plate on the back of the boiler, but I don't know if that was updated when, like, if a boiler was deteriorated, they put a new plate on or anything like that. I'm not sure. If it works engines and that, or if that was just expected to be known, or you just let the safety valves tell you. I'm not sure there. These days, the boiler would have a red line or a mark showing you what maximum pressure is. So we'll give it until 10:59 till we depart, or maybe make it 11 o'clock. Nice round number. It's very much uphill back to Malden. This should be a good fun trip, especially with technically overloaded train. I'm curious what the track chart actually tells me on that one. You won't see it on your screen, but I'm just bringing it up off the victorianrailways.net page. Apparently it was 205 tonnes for a loco rated 100%, which was a D1. From my understanding, this was at 80% boiler pressure. So at full boiler pressure, we should just make it with this train. Now we'll see. If not, we have a very large selection of locos and diesel sitting down at Malden. Well, that's us ready to depart. Turn the blower back a bit. Put some more coal on. Give a blast on the whistle, and away we go. On our way back to Malden. Get that. So you can see our speed recorder view here. Both the needle and the recording gear actually animate, but as does the clock. The clock simply counts round at approximately the correct amount of time. It will reset if you change between rear view and forward view in the cab views. It is just possible to drive from this view, so you can use the speed recorder. Just need to keep an eye on the rear of their train, so when they're passed, you give it a bit of a boot. Of course, it happens to go around the curve so the driver can't see. At least with the wide cab DDs, you can actually see past the tender, just. Get the track going out for a bit of a dirt trip. Actually see the velvet working from the cab view as well, just. It's one of the things I like building into my locos is just small details like that, making sure the velvet is visible in general, and then when you're sitting in the cab view you sort of notice things like that operating. Don't run out on the track in front of trains. Never a smart move. There we go. Well, it's certainly coping with the gradients. I am working it quite hard though. I'm just following the speed limit now. It does tell me I can do 25. But unfortunately I'm not familiar enough with the prototype to know the speed limits on it at this stage. But it's certainly easier than trying to memorise the section from Shelley down to Batoomba, where you're varying between 5, 10, 15 and 20 and I think 25 mile an hour speed limits. Basically every curve has some sort of speed limit on it, apart from the track speed. I might have overfired a bit onto here though. I think my D1's maybe just a tad overpowered, but I'm not sure. Oops, wrong button. can see here, representing section of track for the old Shelburne line. Basically the way we've done the run down to Muckleford is how the Shelburne line is run. Like they'll run out either funnel or tender first, run around the train at Shelburne and then run back. There was never a turntable at Shelburne. That line was actually planned to be extended and had some construction work done, including some bridges, but was never completed for beyond Shelburne. So I swapped between front and rear cabs by accident. Looks like this guy's still trying to mow that one patch of grass. And I don't think he's having much luck at it either. Just pull the rear of our train towards the platform. That should do us. I see that Malden has acquired a 48 class. So now the choice is which loco do we take down to Muckleford next. I won't turn these out on the turntable, but what I'll do is I'll use the trains tab to create a new one, because all of them will be dead cold by now. So if anyone has a request, put one in the chat in the next couple of minutes and I'll give it a run. And I'll service our little D1. Water in that. So far we have a vote for the V class. Perfect. Sorry about that. So I'll just put the D1 back in the shed now. And I'll actually use the flat top T to push the carriages a little bit further back, just for something different. And then I'll put the V class on the other end. Or maybe I'll just use the D1 to push it back. It's certainly not the most operationally friendly yard layout. Well done, VR. Well done. I say VR, not VGR. VR was very good at doing some odd things with their yard layouts. Well, unfortunately I can't run a Stony Point class loco, but nor can I run two Stony Point at the moment, because there's no route for that available. But I believe there is one in development. See if I've got that. Yes, I have. So. Now I will apologise that this is very much a work in progress locomotive. So there are some unfinished details, some missing features. At the moment, some of the glass isn't working too well, it's missing the cab view, things like that, but it is operational. So this time around I'm going to run a funnel first down to Muckleby. And this whistle is actually very much thanks to Steve Lero for his editing, which was done earlier today, our time, West Australian time. Recorded off G42 at Puffingville yesterday, with thanks to the driver on board. So one of the things that's currently not operational is actually both the handbrake and the coal load. So I'm very much going to be relying on the air brake, which is a bit on the slow side, as you can see. My apologies for that. So we'll push them back in a minute. I will run with marker lights this time. So this is the cab view of the V-Class. All of the controls are currently functional. Not all are set up to do anything, but they do twiddle around, as it were. As you can see, the driver's position is on the opposite side of the loco. This was a feature of the American-built locos in Victoria, and then the G-Class Garretts. They were the first of the 280 types in Victoria, so certainly led the way for some fantastic designs of loco. And one of my favourite parts of this cab is the animated pull cord on the whistle. One of the things that will be noticed in this cab is it's very much set up around the idea of the driver and fireman doing very separate things. So for example, the brass control over here is actually a blower completely away from the driver. It's also set up around having a lot more pipe work rather than fittings on directly on the back head. And something that wasn't overly common in Victorian engines, especially preserved ones, it did appear more on earlier designs, is the inclusion of the 3 trichromes. Some smaller locos have 2. And much like the NA class locos at Puffingville, it features a pull-out regulator and lever reverser or Johnson bar. road is set up here. There we go. It was an early adoption of disc wheels on tenders. I believe the next designer loco to have this was the one of the N classes. I think N110. Unfortunately, I don't have multiple viewpoints set up yet, so I'm currently using the free interior view to move around. Okay. Unfortunately, shunting with only one person can be a bit difficult. Thankfully, I can be in more than one place at a time in here. Sort of. Okay. I think that's about where I was. And there go the safety valves, which are on this loco mounted up on the dome, like the NA class. Okay. One of the things I would like to show in this video is one of the new features on the V class, and that's that the tricocks actually function. So that's our upper tricock, which should be just above the water level at the moment. And then the middle one's well into the water level, as is the bottom one. So you can actually use these to tell the level of the water if you wanted to run without the HUD and without using the gauge glass. So from the driver's view, they're actually well within the screen. So as a quick test, you could use them. When the loco's running, it can be a little bit harder to hear them. Wrong one. I wanted to... Nope. Over there. There we go. The cab front windows do open. Unlike some other designs, these ones foul each other, so they only open partially. I expect that in service you could fully open one and partially the other, or however as desired, but in this case I've just set them up to meet in the middle. So we'll give it another minute. I'll make sure we've got a good fire. I really do love the sound of that whistle sound now. As you can see here, this is our sander. This is the V-Class originally is built, were fitted with air sanders. It seems that they weren't the most successful setup, as from my understanding they were removed at some point. V499 was also fitted with the mechanical sander linkage, much like the NAs. The sand dome's up here, and it ran back from about there along and into the cab here. All of the Phoenix locos were built with this, but V499 from the photos, from what I can see in the early photos, didn't have that. So in this case it only has air sanders. I will be doing a version with the mechanical sander linkage at some point. It'll feature the air sander, but it may be non-functional. So I think we'll head off. can be a bit tricky to select the whistle cord when it's blown, because it is notched. So it has two notches, closed and open. And if you accidentally let go, it gets stuck in, sometimes gets stuck in the open position. Let's see how this goes. The brake. One of the things that can be seen in a V-Class is just how spacious the cab is and how well designed. Everything is laid out pretty much ready for you, and there's a lot of space for both the driver and fireman to work in. Both the driver and fireman have decent seats fitted. as you can see, one of the potential issues of driving on the right hand side is that the signal can disappear from view. Especially with an approach release signal, because it won't go green until you're close enough to it. So, first thing I need to do is make sure that the road's actually set, which it isn't. And there we go. One of the things I can show you on this loco whilst it's sitting here is, hopefully it's working, the brake shoes should be animated, but it doesn't look like they are at the moment. That's part of it being a work in progress, unfortunately, but I had hoped to show that animation. You can actually see the quite complex valve gear on this one a lot clearer on the DDs. The expansion link, which is here, actually drives a sort of like a push rod that goes under the front axle to a rocker arm that then drives your piston valve, which is in line with the frames. Ooh, it was a bit hard. It certainly takes a bit of getting used to driving without an independent brake or a handbrake. Well, considering it is now late, I might save this one here and pick it up again another night. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope everyone has a fantastic night and weekend.